Good morning and welcome to the Next Gen Planners Big Breakfast Conference special.
I'm Dan Graham.
And I'm Ellie Austin-Williams, and we're here to bring you a fresh perspective on careers in personal finance and financial planning.
So thank you once again for joining us for this week's series of special shows as part of the Next Gen 21 conference. And throughout the show and this week, we want to hear from you guys. So please ping us a message in the comments. And in particular, today, we want to hear your views on our big topic for today's show, which is diversity and inclusion in finance.
Kicking off the week today, we've got three awesome guests. So we've got Amira Norris from Investec. Heather Hopkins from Next Wealth is here to discuss tech stacks for advisors. And we've got Taylor Beavis from Universe Financial Advice to chat about our big topic. So let's get straight into the show with our first guest, Amira from Nucleus. How are you doing this morning, Amira?
Really well, thanks, Ellie. How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Sorry, Amira. There was a bit of a problem in the script there, obviously with Investec.
Of course,
Amira is from Nucleus, isn't she? And thank you so much for joining us this morning, Amira. And like yesterday, we're going to start with this question. So we're very grateful here at Next Gen Planners for your support from Nucleus for sponsoring the Next Gen 21 conference. Can you just give us a kind of synopsis about why you chose to sponsor our conference this year?
It's really simple. We just absolutely love what you guys do. I've been a member of Next Gen way before my Nucleus days, and it's something that we've watched you guys really closely. And we think within Nucleus that we really love to support initiatives that really help to elevate the advisor community and align with values that we hold really closely to us. So that's really why we're keen for it. And also, you're pretty ambitious, like with 3 days, 4 continents, 100+ speakers. It's just something that we couldn't resist getting involved with, really.
Amazing. And you're currently head of account management at Nucleus. What would you say is the best thing about what you do?
So I've been in financial services 20 years now, 20+ years. And I believe it's one of the best professions that you can have. And it's a really exciting career to have. And for me, it's 100% the people. It's like the Nucleus family that I'm working with internally. It's the people I get to meet outside, well, hopefully outside every single day when I'm out on the road meeting advisors and clients all across the country and just building really good, strong relationships. It makes every day interesting and different. And that's just what floats my boat, really.
Amazing. And today's big topic on the show is, of course, diversity and inclusion in finance. And I think we've actually picked a good company to talk to about this because, of course, the company you are, of course, representing Nucleus today, but you're also quite passionate about this yourself as well. Yeah. But if we think about, the end result for consumers at the end, obviously the people that we're trying to target here, what are the benefits, would you say, of having a diverse and inclusive profession for that end consumer?
So for me, I think it comes down to 2 things. Firstly, it's really that consumers deserve a financial services industry that's going to continue to strive for innovation, whether that's digitally or in an evolution away from like product-based advice into proper planning-based advice, more collaboration. And for me, what diversity brings is that it's been proven in so many different studies, hasn't it, with McKinsey and all the others, that it brings not only kind of profitability into a business, but it does bring that innovation, creativity, but it's also proven that it brings in really good governance and really good problem solving. So ultimately, it's going to give good outcomes for clients from that point of view. But the second bit for me also is quite important. So it doesn't matter what industry you work in or how much you try and niche down your business, your audience and your customers are going to come from a really diverse background, whether that's ethnicity, social background, orientation, ability, or different abilities. And you need to be able to reflect that audience within your own business. Accenture did a study last year, which was based on retail. And it said that 42% of ethnically diverse people and 41% of LGBT people will buy based on the company's brand and performance in diversity and inclusion, which that shows a strong buying signal. But more important to me was that 55% overall would stop buying from a company that had a negative engagement with diversity and inclusion. So it goes to show you that people are really interested in this kind of stuff, and they will vote with their feet with it. So we shouldn't assume that people will behave differently with their retail purchasing than they would do with their kind of how they're going to entrust their professional services to accountants, solicitors, and people like us in financial services.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that one. And how long do you think it will be until we start to see some real progress towards a fully diverse and inclusive financial services profession?
So this is an interesting question, because I think we are seeing progress, and you can't take away from the amazing progress that we've seen already. I mean, it's been a very long, bumpy road. There's been so many different action plans, and FCA have put a big spotlight on it, and there's been lots of kind of thematic reviews on it and everything like that. But I think the challenge we really face is to keep up with pace with what's going on in society in general. And it's the fact that, you know, we've got the next we're looking all now for the next generation of people to come into this industry. And we're people like, even within next gen, we've got a fantastic community of millennials and Gen Xers, and we are all out there demanding equality of opportunity. So we want that equality of opportunity within our own careers, and to come into this industry and see ourselves recognized in the industry. So there's a big challenge there for the industry to evolve, and that does start with hiring managers and employers, and the need to look kind of beyond the traditional qualifications and traditional backgrounds and experience. And luckily, I think we in financial services, and when I say that, I mean the planning community and fintech, have fared way better than the fund management industry, because they've really stuck to the traditional, go out to the top universities and cream off from there, and they've been very isolated in their look and their feel for how they're bringing people in. But it's kind of goes beyond that. You've got to look outside of the box and look at what value add people can bring in to the industry. And then once you've hired that diverse team, I think there's another issue that kind of comes into play, which is you need to make sure that the managers and the support teams that work with those people know how to harness diversity really well and bring the best out of people, because otherwise you're bringing very talented, good people into hostile environments where they can't really express themselves. So for me, it's all about inclusion. So diversity is great. Bringing people in is fantastic. And it's that adage of, you can have a seat at the table, but if you haven't got the confidence to speak up, and you're not in an environment where people want to listen to what you're saying, you haven't found the secret sauce. And for me, that's the nub of it all, really. And I talk about large organizations because I work in a large organization, but it also cascades down to 1 to 5 man band IFA firms. And for these guys, it's really important that you surround yourself with a professional networking group, very much like Next Gen, and the community in which you network with, to just give you that level of diversity into your thinking as well, because it's hard to do in a much smaller business. And I see great successes with it. So the best example I had was only last week. Charlotte Wood did a fantastic piece for New Model Advisor, and it was all about motherhood and sexism within the work industry with motherhood. And you know, it was a great challenging article, but what I found most interesting was the comments that sat below it. Some of them made me despair. They were really bad, but some of them gave me such hope. You know, there was one commentator who said that she was into cakeism, and women who want to work and have children wanted to have their cake and eat it. He referred to it as shenanigans in wanting to do it. And it really kind of, it was very jarring to see that that comment was still kind of being made in the industry. But then there were 138 other amazing comments, not just from women, but from men as well, saying, no, you're absolutely right. This isn't acceptable. It's time for change. Here's how we're implementing change. And that is, to me, like the green shoots of hope that we are starting to make really good progress in this.
Yeah, what a great answer. Thanks, Amira. And I think if I can just add to some of the things that you were saying there, obviously we're doing this because of the Next Gen 21 conference, and I don't know if everyone knows, but we've managed to reach around 50% gender equality in our speakers.
Amazing.
And the way we did that was by being positive about it and striving for that. And that was the benchmark. If we didn't reach that, we couldn't do a conference. And it just proves that you can do these kind of things. We don't want one more than the other. We just want equality. And we've proved with the conference that you can do these things if you strive positively for them as well. But
Exactly.
that was such a fantastic answer. Thank you, Amira. But sadly, that wraps up our time with you this morning, Amira, in the interview segment. But please do hang around for the big topic at the end. we'll dive a little bit more into what you guys are doing at Nucleus. And thank you so much for coming on.
And for anybody that's in our audience, then look out for the CPD session from Nucleus on Fridays, your CPD in a year, CPD year in a day. But next up, we've got a recorded monologue from Heather Hopkins, who is here to talk about advisors owning their tech stacks. So take it away, Heather.
Hey, great to be back. My name is Heather Hopkins, Managing Director of Next Wealth, and we're delighted to be sponsoring the Next Gen Conference again this year. For my 10-minute monologue, I wanted to talk about advisors taking back control of the tech stack. Now, we've done a lot of moaning over the last few years on tech. Let's be honest, guys, right? What I want to do today is talk about some really exciting changes that we're seeing that's taking that moaning and putting into something really constructive with some exciting changes happening with advisor tech. Our argument is that financial advisors are taking back control of their tech stack, and that this is really good news for advice businesses and for their customers. So a bit of background about how we got here. So we all know there's been a regulatory transfer of power from provider to customer. There's a real desire for the regulator to put the customer in control of their data, to empower them with information, and to put them really at the center, and to transfer that power to the customer. And the RDR was a really critical part of that. The person closest to the customer and who advocates for the customer is, of course, in our industry, the financial advisor. And financial advisors, since the RDR, have really continued working with providers. There was some change in the way that relationship worked, but in terms of the makeup of who they were working with, it didn't change that much. There was definitely a shift from life companies to wrap platforms, but then those wrap platforms often became part of companies that were formerly known as life businesses. And so there's been some change in dynamics, but we think there's a real fundamental shift happening now that advisors have really gotten comfortable with the fact that they are in control and can control their destiny to a greater degree than they've ever had to. And I think that's really good news for customers and advisors. So let me tell you a bit about how that's manifested itself. So we've seen a shift in assets away from legacy pension providers towards firms offering more modern experience or product. And that's really important. It's of course slow, and all of you will know that when clients come to you, they all have assets on all sorts of various places, and it can, your support staff or you might even be on hold for half a day trying to get through to one of these providers, and that's not great. But it's decreasing the proportion of assets and decreasing the number of customers where that's the case, and that's important because that will disappear eventually. And a lot of next gen planners setting up businesses tell us that they don't even really need a back office system to be able to track commissions or to track products on those legacy providers, because they can just do a line item in their CRM or the back office tool that they're using to track that. And they don't need some of the larger, more robust back office systems that were really built pre-RDR for commission reconciliation. So there's that asset shift happening, and advisors taking more control of their tech stack. And where we're seeing that happen most is in launching platforms. But that's only the first step. And it's strange in a way that it started with platforms, because actually, when we talk to advisors about the tech stack, the cash flow modeling tools and platforms usually get the highest ratings, and the lowest ratings for the back office systems. But when you think about the frustrations existing within businesses and what's within their power to control, a lot of them are looking at the platform as the first port of call to change, to be able to then impact on those other areas as well. We did a survey just recently, and this is really just in the bigger firms at the moment, 250 million and above. So 1 in 4 financial advisors working in a firm with 250 million in assets or more say that they have their own bespoke platform for their firm. But that moves to 1 in 2 for firms looking out 3 years from now. So there's a real shift happening, and I'm hearing it all the time from these big firms. But what about smaller financial advice businesses? They're coming up with some really interesting solutions to come together in groups to be able to look at solutions to be able to control a little bit more of their tech stack. Now, I don't want it to sound like I'm advocating for launching a white label platform, but what I think is exciting about this is it's going to lead to innovation to be able to better support financial advisors. And third-party platforms have in a way been a bit hindered in what they can offer for regulatory reasons, that because the client pays for the platform, and you might agree that that's the right way for it to be. In my own view, I think you can make an argument either way, but if the client's paying for the custody, then it's hard for the platform to focus their innovations on the financial advice business. But if you can come up with some different models, which we're seeing emerging, you can see more development happening to support financial advisors, and that's advisors using their influence, using their power to be able to influence what's happening in the market. And the rise of white label platforms, I think, is actually going to be really good for the whole industry, because it's forcing innovation to happen for the interests of financial advice businesses, if that makes sense. Another thing I want to mention is that this isn't just about margin. And I think people are really missing the broader picture if they think this is just about advisors trying to capture margin by launching a platform. It's about being able to control the client experience, being able to control price, and being able to control their destiny. And it's really been difficult over the last few years. If you've recommended a platform that then goes through a big tech change and you have to apologize for that to your client, that's a really difficult position to be in. So by becoming a platform operator in your own right, then you have the ability to change that underlying tech provider without having to go back to the client, because that contractual relationship exists with you as a firm. So there's other reasons it's happening. It's not just about margin. That's obviously a big part of it, but it's not the only thing. Another important thing is price. So it's sometimes difficult for firms to move clients from a legacy provider to a more modern product, because if you're having to pay 35 basis points for the platform, it can be difficult to get the product charge below what they might be paying for one of these legacy provider products. But if you have more control over the various parts of the value chain, then you can control that price a bit better and potentially help to justify the shift by ensuring that it's a lower price. And firms that I talk to who have their own platform will say that they have a rule that they'll never move somebody to a more expensive product. And we think that that's right. So ensuring it's a better product and a less expensive product is really important. And by having more control, they're able to do that more. And I remember, Jennifer Ellis, one of the Next Gen members, spoke at one of our events and said that her firm, Wellington Wealth, is working with 42 different systems. That's just bonkers. That's not her choice. I remember saying that to a provider. I'm like, gosh, why would any firm do that? And I was like, no, it's her choice. Do you? I was just crazy. Anyway, so when I was talking to Dan Graham and Adam Owen about this section, the song "We're Not Gonna Take It" by Twisted Sister, which, if you don't know it, I wouldn't look it up. It's a dreadful song, but it just kept coming in my head. And it's this, we're not going to take it. No, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore by the Twisted Sisters is basically what's happening with financial advice firms. They recognized that they have the power. There's the tech capability to do something, and change is happening. The other thing I want to mention is specifically something about younger financial advisors, which I think is really exciting. So there's a real tech shift being driven by financial advisors under 45. And people who are younger, they tend to be investing in their business for growth. They're not thinking about how they're going to sell it or what their retirement plans are, etc. They're in it for a longer stretch. So advisors under 45 in our surveys, what we found is that they are working in firms that spend more on tech. They are more likely to have added a new piece of tech in the last year. They're more likely to say that they're going to add a new piece of tech in the coming year, and they're less satisfied with their tech stack. as it is now. They're really looking to drive change. And that's another reason why we are really excited about the future of tech, is because you have this new cohort of financial advisors coming through who haven't operated under the legacy of these, the RDR in some cases, with legacy pension products and so on. So they're rethinking what makes sense and stitching together a set of systems that really works together, which is really exciting. And again, I think fantastic for our industry and great for clients. So just to close, what we're hearing is that the financial planning tool set works pretty well. Cash flow modeling, client onboarding, client portals, that stuff works pretty well. It's the back end that's not working well. And I think that there's some really exciting things coming on the horizon that will stitch together custody and back office much more effectively, that will mean that you have to spend less of your time on that and more time on things that add value to your clients. And it's also not just big firms. We think that there are some really exciting initiatives on the go, that or on the horizon, that are going to mean that advisors in all sizes of firms will be able to benefit from this. Thanks very much.
Wow. What an amazing monologue there from Heather Hopkins. Thank you so much, Heather. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us this morning. That's why it's recorded. But yeah, if you want to find out more about Heather's work at Next Wealth, just head to the link that popped up on the bottom of the screen there. Ellie's on mute. That's the first time it's happened, Ellie. That's not...
I'm back. What a brilliant talk from Heather there. And now it's time for our big breakfast, big topic. And today we're talking about diversity and inclusion. And joining us to kick off this segment, we've got Taylor Beavis from Universe Financial Advice. Hi, Taylor.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us. And as Ellie mentioned there, the big topic, of course, today is diversity and inclusion in finance. I know it's a matter that's close to everyone's hearts, and especially to you guys as well. So I'll ask you the same question that I asked Amira at the start there, but why do you think it's so important to the end consumer that the financial planning profession is diverse and is inclusive?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So for me, in my day-to-day job and work, I work quite closely with solicitors. So I think it's really interesting to look at what the SRA have done on this. And they've done a massive piece of work around diversity and inclusion within the industry, their industry. And I think a lot of it translates over to us. And the key things that I took from looking at that was really, when we're running an advice business, we've got such a broad range of clients, and we'd be foolish to think that all clients are suitable for every advice business. So if every advisor was like me, we wouldn't be serving everybody properly, because my advice business is very specific in who we are able to support and who we are best suited to advise. So in terms of diversity and inclusion, I know that in my pool of clients, I've got quite a few clients from the LGBT community, and I've got quite a few female clients, and I've also got a lot of younger clients. So auto-enrollment, I think, has brought about a massive shift in the age of clients that are looking to take finance seriously. So I think with that in mind, we've got to make sure that the range of IFA businesses is also as diverse and inclusive of their needs. Just from kind of a personal experience myself, as a gay man, I have a very different idea of what my retirement looks like without children to what some of my clients who have children would anticipate that their retirement would look like. So I'm able to help a lot more for individuals that think like me and are living lives much more similar to mine. So it doesn't mean that people are excluded. It just means that if somebody's better suited, I might put them to another advisor and recommend they go somewhere else. So I think that's one thing. The other thing as well for consumers is if, sadly for me, running such a small firm, I don't necessarily have the pool of staff members that have taken different exams and different qualifications. But when you run a larger advice business, that's the beauty of it, is that everybody has undertaken different exams, qualifications, and therefore they can support different clients with different things. For me, and I think this is really important for other people that are running small firms like myself, it's about the network. And Amira touched upon this. So although my company cannot be as diverse in terms of number of staff, my network can be. So it's really foolish to think that one accountant would be fine for all of my clients. It's foolish to think that one solicitor would be the right solicitor. So I have a pool of all of those things. And I very much engage them in conversations with clients, and we try and find the best fit. It's not about money, profit. It's about actually making sure it's the right fit for the clients. And if I'm not the right fit for a client, then I'll be honest with them and I'll put them to another advisor that would be a better fit. So to answer your question, that's kind of how I think consumers would benefit.
Amazing. And you touched on it there, but what do you think that we can learn from other professions in terms of increasing diversity and inclusion in financial services and financial planning?
Yeah, so I touched upon the SRA, so a piece of work that they've done, and I recommend you'd have a look at it. The name for it, I'm just looking now at my notes, The Business Case for Diversity, is a really interesting report. So in this report, it obviously talks, as Amira touched on as well, about profitability of having a diverse and inclusive workforce. That's obvious, and I think actually we all know that, and we all know that we need to be diverse and inclusive, or a lot of us know, that the majority of people know, and actually the majority of people want it. It's more about putting that into practice that we struggle with. So this paper, The Business Case for Diversity, covers it in a few sections. So I'll just read those out to you now. So it talks about how being diverse and inclusive can attract the best staff. It talks about how it can give you cost efficiencies, improve productivity within the business, how it can give you a better understanding of the market, and how it can help with innovation, problem solving. So this paper, not only does it talk about those things, the thing that I like the most about it is it actually puts it into practice. It gives you real life examples within a business how you can apply these factors and these considerations to help your business become more diverse and inclusive.
And would you, I mean, the next question was, what would you like to see actively happening in our profession to make it more diverse and inclusive? It kind of touches on that there. Do you think that we could benefit from something like that in financial? I mean, has it happened? I don't know. Maybe it has happened and I don't know about it. But do you think that, you know, something like the FCA or a professional body could do something like that?
Yeah, I also think there's a really interesting guide or kind of an article that they've produced, which I think we could produce, which is all about kind of definitions, so around different sexual orientations, what they mean, and actually not being shy that we don't know all of the ins and outs of a diverse and inclusive world. And it goes through what they mean, non-binary, X, Y, Z. And I think that would be really helpful for people to read, because a lot of the time, I think we're scared to say the wrong thing. And I think a lot of people are scared, even when they're talking to me, to, you know, they move around the topic about diversity and try and ask me some questions, but actually they're just worried about saying the wrong thing and offending me. So I think something like that would be really useful. But for me, I think, and I don't know whether you're going to come on and ask me a further question, but a passion for me is having more women in the industry.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of ties into my final question, but how optimistic are you that we're going to achieve these higher levels of diversity and inclusion in financial planning over the next kind of 5-10 years or so?
So I'd love to say that I'm really optimistic, but there's a few things that I want to highlight here. So if I'm just talking specifically about females in finance here. So the FCA in 2019 published some data which showed that actually when they're looking at approved individuals, only 17% of them were female. Now, they also highlighted that the same research was conducted back in 2005 with similar results. So although the number of approved individuals increased dramatically from 2005 to now, we didn't make any headway on improving the inclusion of females in the financial services industry. Now, what they also found, which I think is really interesting, is that when you're looking at the roles within a business, you've got customer-facing, advising roles, and you've obviously got senior management roles. Now, women were much better represented, albeit not fairly, much better represented in senior management roles and positions. So what I don't want to see is I don't want to see females being put on a board just to hit that quota. I want to see females all throughout the business at all different roles. I want to see mums, I want to see young female graduates in companies. And so the question I think that we need to answer is, why is that not happening when we all feel the same? And I think a lot of it boils down to looking at actually how females and women apply for these jobs. So if you look at how jobs are advertised, there's a lot of research to show how women look at a job advert compared to their male counterparts. So when you're looking at job description, the research shows that men will look at all the criteria for a job and they will apply if they only fit about 60% of that criteria. Females want to hit 100% before they have the confidence to apply. So that's a confidence gap in men and females. So we can address that by making our job descriptions much better and fit for purpose. And Cisco, a very large company, you'll all know, have done a lot of work in terms of the wording of their job articles and their job descriptions to make it more attractive to females. On top of that, I think it's really interesting to know that when women are in the pipeline for recruitment, they're statistically more likely to get the job. So this is about getting them into the pipeline. So I think that's where we need to start.
Unreal. Thank you so much, Taylor. And I'd like to just bring in Amira for the last moment here and just touch on what Nucleus are doing as an organisation. So can you tell us, Amira, what Nucleus are doing, to promote diversity and inclusion in your workforce?
Yeah, I'd be pleased to. So with us, it starts from our exco. We've got a really good, strong leadership, of course, from our CEO, David Ferguson, but also our Chief Risk Officer, Martin Ettles, champions this and drives it from a board level. And then it just kind of cascades down throughout the rest of the company, really. So we've got a really good people and development team that makes sure that we do the recruitment process right, really similar to what Taylor was talking about, actually, in looking at our job profiles and how we approach recruitment. And also we're members of a couple of charters. So we're part of the Women in Finance Charter and the Tech Talent Charter. So we do that there. But then we cascade everything down to activists. So that's volunteers within the business. We've got a passion for diversity and inclusion and want to try and drive it forward within the business. And I'm a member of that group as well. And we coordinate our kind of annual program of events and we take it through 3 kind of core themes. So the first one we've got is talk and share. We then do measurement of success. And the last one is education. So just 2 examples just from this kind of last week on its own. Last week was Men's Mental Health Week. So we went out to our charity partners because we always partner with a charity every year. And this year it's Scottish Mental Health Association that we're partnering with. And they came in and did some talks with our staff all around men's mental health and the things that we need to be looking out for, not just professionally, but personally as well. And of course, it's Pride Month. So we've gone out to our LGBT co-workers and we've asked them to share their stories with us as part of that kind of talk and share, just to bring that visibility into the workforce. And look, we're by no means perfect, but I believe perfect is the enemy of good. So everybody just needs to start somewhere. Pick one thing, pick one topic that you're an advocate for and that you're passionate about. Take it out into your networks, take it out into your business, and just take it forward from there.
Yeah, brilliant words there from you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you, Taylor, for coming in to talk to us about this important topic, and to Amira for being our guest on today's show, and also Heather Hopkins from Next Wealth for the work that she's doing.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much to all of our guests and for you guys at home for watching. Join us same time tomorrow, where the big topic will be technology, and we've got more awesome guests lined up. But thank you again for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.